Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Hello.
We just chatted Marco in an issue, I remember.
Oh, yes. I just noticed your name.
Yeah. Let's wait a bit more for till others to join.
Let me get an updated link for the Discord server.
You mean in the notes?
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right, this is a standing one. You just paste it. I think we also have to add this in the README in the repo, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, they registered it a couple of weeks ago, maybe.
All right.
Hey, I recommend to get started. So first of all, hello everyone, and thanks for joining the community of SARS. There are 4 of us from GitLab or from the configure team, and we are behind developing GitLab's Kubernetes integrations and infrastructure as code integrations, and we own the Terraform provider as well. And so I'm the product manager on the team. I don't know where the others are within your Zoom window, but please, everyone from the team, let's quickly introduce ourselves just to get started. Timo, would you mind starting?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my name is Timo. I'm the main maintainer, or was the main maintainer up until now from the provider. I recently joined GitLab, and yeah. Joel, you want to continue?
Hi, I'm João, back engineer for the configure team. I have been watching the repository from a distance, and I'm here to try to get more acquainted with it as well, and also helping support it more. Yeah.
Hey, my name is Hunter. I joined GitLab 7 or 8 weeks ago. So I'm here to learn and see how we facilitate these meetings, and yeah.
Cool. And Timo, you have the first few topics, so.
Yes, I do. So yeah, the first thing is that we moved to meetup.com, which you probably noticed because before we just had like a standing Google calendar invite, which is kind of cumbersome. So I think that was a success. I thought more will be joining since a lot of people RSVP in meetup. But yeah, I'm just double checking if the URL there is actually correct of the Zoom, or maybe if someone else can quickly do this in the background, and then I'll continue here.
I came from the Zoom
Okay.
meeting from the URL that's in the calendar, you mean, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but then yeah, all good. Cool. Yeah, second point, we also want to move to the Discord of GitLab. There's like an official one, and before we had a separate one. So I think we'll be discontinue this in, I don't know, the next week or something. I don't know, Victor, what your plans were when you created it, but for me, I think we should discontinue the old one as soon as possible and just redirect people to the new one.
Yeah.
To avoid confusion and also make it easier for us.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay, and then the third thing, which is probably the one which is the biggest one, at least from an announcement point of view, is that we will move the GitLab Terraform provider repository from GitHub to GitLab, and we'll only accept contributions there, and all the development will be happening there. We'll keep the GitHub repo though, because it's the only way to actually deploy a Terraform provider to the registry. So we will be syncing the releases from GitLab over to GitHub when we create a release, so that it will be released from there to the registry. There is an Epic linked in the notes where you can follow, if you like to, from our progress, and there's a few issues associated with this Epic, which details like our migration plan. In terms of timeline, I can't really tell yet when this will be finished or when we make the cut, but I expect it not to be in the far future, rather like in the next 1 or 2 weeks, because we have a lot of things already lined up and prototyped, and it looks actually all quite good so far. But if you have any doubts or comments or wishes, I'm happy to hear about them, or we're happy to hear about them, and make sure it works out for all of us, and not that it's just that we just solve our needs. So if you have anything, let us know. There's also a GitHub issue pinned to the repository, which I try to keep updated with some progress from the Epic on GitLab. So yeah, I don't know if you have any comments now or anything, or maybe you've seen this happening for other providers. I searched a little bit, but I haven't seen any. So if you know about any, let us know.
If not, then Marco, you have the first topic, and we'll be happy to answer that.
Yeah, my topic is not really a topic, more like a question about how, because I'm relatively new to Kubernetes and I never used Terraform. So today I joined mostly because I wanted to have a look at how it works, what it does, and things like that, to get some insight, if that's possible during this office hour call. Otherwise, it's nice to be here anyway.
No, it's absolutely possible. I mean, like Terraform works that you have different providers for different kind of infrastructures, right? And this provider we're working on is just to manage GitLab infrastructure and configuration. So meaning that you can write some Terraform code, which is like a declarative way of describing some infrastructure. And you could, for example, you could describe how a project should look like on GitLab. And if you execute this declarative code with Terraform, it will check the state on GitLab and basically reconciles it to the same you have in your configuration, so that your configuration matches what's actually on GitLab. So if you write there like a resource GitLab project, which is called Marco, you give it the name and the path, and maybe you tell it it should initialize with a README. Then if you execute this with Terraform, it will actually create that project as you described it. And we basically have resources for all kinds of API endpoints from GitLab. So, creating users, creating projects, groups, whatever. And if there's one missing, like you could ask us to implement this, you can implement this yourself. Like that's basically like the contributions to the provider. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, and I totally misunderstood what Terraform managed, because I, on a Kubernetes environment, I thought that, for example, the GitLab Kubernetes agent managed the deployment to the Kubernetes cluster, but the Terraform provider managed the infrastructure where that cluster got generated. Basically, Terraform generates the cluster, and then the agent deploys the application.
Exactly.
Oh, so that's actually what it does.
Yes, exactly. So you could also use Terraform with a Kubernetes provider to, for example, make sure that some namespace exists, or even any kind of manifest. But in general, like Terraform, yes, it really is like infrastructure as code. So you describe your infrastructure like a EKS cluster. And then you would use the agent and pull some, with the GitOps flow, pull some manifests from a GitLab repository.
Okay, so basically Terraform has different providers, and the GitLab Terraform provider only manages the, for example, projects, groups, users, and those kind of things.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I know about a lot of users who basically, for example, they want every project to kind of look the same in a certain way, to have the same protected branches, the same members, and so on. And they use Terraform to manage that in like a centralized infrastructure of code way. So that you don't have Wild West on your GitLab instance, basically.
To be honest, I wish I knew this earlier, because I am doing that manually right now, physically right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people are doing it either manually by some kind of procedure they documented, or they actually use shell scripting, which I've also seen a lot. They're like custom tooling written in Go or these kind of things. I see this a lot, and yeah.
Old school, old manual.
Yeah. There's probably also benefits to that, but in general, like, it makes your life way easier if you have this as code. You can also, the change management is much easier, right? You can just create a merge request to your repo and basically request a new project for you, or these kind of things.
So, given that, is it possible to make a demo, like we've been chatting in Discord, that a file in Terraform a file in GitHub project, which is Terraform scenario, will modify the project when it's merged, basically?
Mm-hmm. So I think this, if I understood you correctly, this would mean that you would have a pipeline which basically runs Terraform, and you would then request some changes, or you have a change in the Terraform code, which when merged will run the pipeline, and then you have some new infrastructure. Right?
Yeah, updates, not just new infrastructure, it updates the project. Like if I need to change description, I can submit
If you want, I can quickly share you one of my projects, which is a pretty cool one to showcase these things, I think. It won't be a full demo because I won't set it up and so on, but at least it gives you an idea what it does. So this is my personal project, as you can see. And under that, there's a project directory, which actually contains a link to all the other projects that I have. For example, I have a project called Infra, which is my clusters and stuff on that cluster. It's a Kubernetes cluster running on Linode. And here, what I do is I have this project YAML that describes all my projects. And I have a project Terraform that reads that YAML. It creates a module for each of that. And the interesting thing will be the module, actually, because that's what you are interested at. It's a bit more complicated, but this could be done without a module. It's just nicer this way. Basically, it creates a new project for every item in that project's YAML. And it does in a way that it creates the project and then sets up the membership to both my GitLab user and my personal user, so that I don't have to switch accounts all the time. And it sets up an access token I have a renovate bot project that keeps all my projects up to date all the time, and it basically runs from environment variables. Based on the environment variable, it knows about the projects that it should look at, and it sets up a project access token and the environment variable in the currently created project and in the renovate project. So,
and where do you store the state for infrastructure once it's created?
I store it with GitLab. GitLab has something that we call the GitLab managed Terraform state. Here it goes. If I learn how to type. So we have something called the GitLab managed Terraform state, which is an HTTP state backend for Terraform. If you know a bit more about Terraform, then so that's one type of a backend. And it doesn't need much initialization if you use it from GitLab CI, because in GitLab CI, we pre-configure all the environment variables for that specific project and so on. And that's how it just uses the state itself, which in code means that I use the built-in latest template for Terraform, and the projects are actually here. It has a Terraform root environment variable, a state name environment variable, and one access token, basically. No, it's not even access token, just one Terraform variable that I need for this to run.
Is there an interface to see the state or some statistics about what is being managed?
The state, based on your questions, you know how Terraform works. I could download the JSON of the state, but there is no way to see it on the screen. What you could do is in the merge request, let's see, one. Yeah, I think this would work. We have a merge request integration that's now loading Terraform reports, as you can see, and it shows that one report was generated that adds 7 things, 0 to change and 1 to delete. And I could open the full log that I don't want to do now because I don't know what's in the log, and then might be credentials. But basically that shows you the Terraform output. It shouldn't have credentials because it shows Terraform output. Anyway, for safety, I will rather not open it. Any more questions here?
Yeah, you set up GitLab token to access the modified properties of the project.
No, that was for a bit different reason. But there is a GitLab token, actually. That's true, yes.
So if I want to modify the same project, like if your project personnel wants to modify itself, is it possible to extract this token somewhere?
I mean, there is one token that's available in every CI job, the CI job token. Mm-hmm. If the CI job token has the necessary permissions to do the change, then you can use that, but you will have to pass it to Terraform as a tf_var_, basically as a Terraform variable.
Yeah, but I mean, probably the CI job token won't help in the examples you gave, because it has very limited access to things like releases or uploading artifacts and these kind of things. But changing the project itself, you would need to create a project access token manually, add it as a CI/CD variable, and then you have it available in your Terraform code.
And then you can restrict it as well, for example, to your main branch,
Mhm.
so that it's only available there and not in merge requests.
Yeah, I had other questions like related to the handling of the properties that are not set. Like if I try to modify only description and I submit Terraform scenario with only description, Terraform still tries to, reset some properties to default. At least it was like 2 years before when I tried it with GitLab project.
That's correct. So basically, the idea is that Terraform manages your resources, and it's not that Terraform patches some of the things that it doesn't know about. As a result, if you don't specify all the properties of your project and Terraform doesn't have any default set, even if your project has those things set up, it will just fail. First, you have to import your project under Terraform. And afterwards, if you have set some customizations that are non-default and you don't provide those values to Terraform, Terraform will just want to override them to get back to the default value. But if you have everything set up and there are no differences between the Terraform and your current state, and then you want to modify your description, it will only modify the description. I mean, there's nothing else to modify, so it's.
And I think in the case where you want to change your own project, there is no way around an import.
Yeah.
Because there's like a chicken and egg issue, especially, I mean, only actually if you want to store the state in GitLab itself inside the project. I think if you would store the state somewhere else, you could actually do this by just locally like running Terraform, and then with creating the project, basically committing the code itself to that project and then handle it there. But I think this wouldn't solve your problem. So an import is probably what you need anyway.
Yeah, import is okay, and managing state in the same project, I think, is okay as well.
I think it's good, yeah.
Automatically, even automatically importing all the stuff on the first pipeline run, maybe this could work. Yeah, well, that's all questions I had, except for the.
Did he also break up for you?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Anatoly is frozen. At all.
Okay, well, do we have something else on the agenda? There's one shot draw from you. Just reading.
I think some people reported that they could only log in with the Zoom link inside the agenda. I pasted on the meeting meetup page too, but I think we need to update this then if you cannot log in with the calendar event.
Yeah, the one on the meetup event required a passcode. So if you could just replace that link with the one in the doc, that one worked for me.
Oh no.
That might explain.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the feedback. Cool. Ryan, you missed the very beginning. So we are in the process of migrating the repo to GitLab. Actually, Timo works on it mostly, I think. But yeah.
Is that happening within the next month? And did we figure out the push to the registry? I know that was one of the pain points, pushing to the HashiCorp registry.
Yes, so we figured this out. I figured this out at least one way, and it is that we keep the GitHub repo and we sync the releases made from GitLab to GitHub. And from there, like the normal Terraform registry push is or like releasing is basically happening. But the GitHub repo will be completely locked down. So you couldn't, you're not basically allowed to create an issue because the tab is not even there, I think. And for pull requests, I think you can't really lock that down in the settings GitHub provides, but we have an action which basically closes all the pull requests with some note that please open it in GitLab.
Okay, then we're maintaining the pipeline file then inside of GitLab for pushing from GitHub, I imagine then?
Yeah, yes. So there's some pipeline code in GitLab to sync it to GitHub, and also like creating the normal release is like the same thing we had before.
Okay, perfect.
Mm.
That should work.
Yes. Do you have anything else? Any other like doubts or anything? I mean, you've been contributing, and is there anything you can think of?
No, nothing really. As long as we lock down the repository, and I know it has to stay open source on GitHub in order for it to be pushed to the official registry. That's about it.
I'm just thinking, I don't know if it could actually be a private repo also.
You have to double check that, but I thought in the documentation on pushing to the HashiCorp registry, it had to be an open source project behind the scenes.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
I can quickly check, but I think it's okay if it's like, open source, and we just have a bot basically closing PRs.
Oh yeah, that should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Unless HashiCorp comes back and says, hey, you actually need to maintain it here as well. That's a different story, but
I mean, we talked to HashiCorp, but they couldn't really help. They were like, figure it out yourself. So
yeah, as long as they said figure it out and figure it out yourself, but it's not a no, you can't do this, then we should be okay.
Yeah. Hey, Patrick. And someone else joined as well. I don't know who.
Glenn.
Glenn. All right. Yeah, true.
Hello, Glenn.
Hey. So Patrick, we were just talking about the migration to GitLab. In case you have any comments for this or any ideas, like doubts, whatever, shoot them. Otherwise, I think.
No, I'm super excited for it. We finished earlier, actually just a couple months ago, our full migration off of GitHub. So
Okay.
I'm excited to be able to use one account for everything, including open source contributions. So
sounds good.
Did we talk about the 4.0 release yet?
No. I mean, there was nothing on the agenda. Do you have anything you want to?
Oh, nothing. I was just wondering when we should plan to do it, because I know that we have some things like refactoring and other things we want to do, breaking changes. So I'm not sure when we were planning on. I think were we going to create a parallel branch to do some of these changes in, and then merge it in when it's time?
Mm-hmm. It's a very good question, and to be honest, I don't really have any answers right now. I have a few ideas, but I don't. Yeah, not really mature. But I think let's finish the migration, and then maybe we can start tackling the next big thing, which probably is this 4.0 release. Maybe for the others, like we have some breaking changes coming up for the provider, just because a lot of resources have issues, especially in the IDs, which prevent us from doing a few things. And yeah, this 4.0 release would basically, or the idea is to allow us making breaking changes for once, which we normally don't do. And I did create a bunch of issues already associated with this 4.0 release. But yeah, nothing really concrete about how we're gonna roll that out or even work on this. if I think I'll create an epic or an issue on GitLab once we migrate it, and then we can start discussing there what some good ways will be, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think that works out just fine.
And actually with that, like another thing that comes to my mind is the new framework for writing Terraform providers. I'm not sure if you are aware, but right now we are on the SDK, like Terraform Provider SDK, I think it's called. And there is a Terraform Provider framework, which is in like a beta state or something, which would solve a few issues we have and probably would unblock us from implementing a few nice things. Like for example, we have these issues that if we have a list inside of a resource, it's not ordered, I think. So you basically have to always provide it in the same order, otherwise you will have changes and these kind of things. And I think the new framework would actually allow us to do this. But yeah, if someone has any experience with like migrating something or even in the new framework, I think it will be very great to have some insights.
Yeah, you know as much as I do. I was looking at it, it was in beta, and it's basically like stable beta, I would say, because they said that if you have in the documentation, it says if you have a brand new provider, it's probably best to go with the new framework, but if you have something existing, it's probably best to stick around with the stable SDK for now. But so I'm curious what it looks like though if we were to migrate, that would solve some of the issues we have.
Yes.
I wonder if maybe that's something that we should look at with 4.0 as well, just because we don't know what sort of breaking changes might happen as a result of adopting that framework.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, definitely something to dig into. Other than that, we also haven't been upgrading or updating our test matrix to the latest GitLab releases. So I was on vacation and onboarding and these kind of things, so that's why I haven't been really active the last few weeks. But I think it would be nice to update those in the coming weeks or whatever, basically as soon as possible. If anyone has time, I think it will be very nice to make sure the provider works.
I'll push a change to that this evening.
Okay, yeah, it would be awesome. I'm back I'm actually on vacation right now, but I'll be back on Friday, so I can get into that.
One thing to know is when we move to GitLab as well, we can auto generate those latest three values from like the releases page. Like we could scrape it and then just like look at the blog posts and calculate it from there. So we never have to make a code change then for the latest 3 releases. Don't think you can do that kind of fancy work with GitHub, but with GitLab, I know it's possible to do that easily.
Yeah, sure. I mean, all the automation for these kind of things would be nice. I also see that a lot of like checks are failing, especially for EE instances. I don't know what's going on. Did anyone look at this?
I saw the same thing. That was something that I had planned to look at this weekend, because I saw a bunch of EE failing checks after I rebased just to get that suppressed diff taken care of. And I looked at that and went, those aren't caused by the current pull requests. So I had just kind of flagged to look at that this weekend when I had a little bit more time to dig into it.
Yeah, I quickly looked on the failure yesterday, I think, and it said that like the feature code owner approvals is not available or something like that. So I don't, and it's for all the versions we test against. So I'm not sure what's going on. To be honest, it's kind of weird.
I thought that was maybe moved around in the API, so that might be what's happening. But it's weird to see it breaking change.
It's old instances. We didn't upgrade the instances to GitLab.
Right.
So either it's GitLab doing something different, maybe, or we merged something which broke this somehow without updating instances, but yeah. So all the actions are failing. I just double checked, so there's something majorly.
Yeah, I did have that on my list of things to take a look at this weekend.
All right. Yeah.
Timo, we had like this thing where we figure out that for M1 Max, like the development environment was kind of weird. Do we have like a solution for this, and do we need to document it or a path?
I don't have a solution. We need a solution, and we need to document this. I don't know if any is any one of you on M1 and doesn't use Docker Desktop.
I have an M1 sitting behind me, but I try not to use it for exactly this reason.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, we tried Colima and Podman, and maybe you remember the issue, Ryan or Patrick, that someone tried this and it didn't work, and we just pointed them to Gitpod. But yeah, I mean, there is an issue on GitLab actually, and it's about like releasing omnibus Docker instances for ARM, which I think would be the proper solution. There is like unofficial images on Docker Hub, and those work with Colima and Podman. So yeah.
So for Docker Desktop, it's not a problem, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
At least I haven't seen any reports, but I also didn't try. So
that would make sense because Docker Desktop does a lot of the ARM to x86 emulation. So if you run it through desktop, you're probably running it as an emulated Docker container. So, but I would say at least for now, for development, just to make it as stable as possible, like you said, Timo, until there's an official ARM image, I would just point most M1 users to Gitpod. And once we get, that becomes even easier to do once we get the migration to GitLab done, because our instructions are literally set up Gitpod in your GitLab account and go. So
yeah, yes. Yeah, I also think that for like more advanced contributors or even people working at GitLab or contributing to GitLab, those can also use GDK to test against, which may not be exactly the same thing as if you would test against a Docker instance, but I think it's a good like mitigation until we have a solution for M1. And we should document that.
I think, don't we have something in our contributing MD about M1 issues? I thought we added that when we added Gitpod.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't think we have a solution. I think we just
we don't have a solution. The solution is basically use Gitpod.
Okay, yeah.
I think we just documented the fact that there was an issue with it.
I mean, searching for M1 and contributing MD doesn't yield any results. So.
Okay. So yeah, we should probably add a note there.
Yeah.
I'll create an issue to do that.
Cool, thank you. Okay. Is there anything else from anyone? I don't have anything else, so. All right, then I think let's.
Sorry, before I joined, did we cover number 5? Marco had left a question about like Kubernetes and Terraform.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. And Victor showed some nice demo of one of his personal projects. I'm sure you can look at the recording if you're interested. But actually, like about that, I think it would be awesome to have something like that in a guide section in the Terraform provider docs. There's a lot of
Sure.
providers who have like an additional section to data sources and resources, which is like guides, which have like examples of you could use this provider in this way to create your project. And I think Patrick, you're doing this as well in your company, right? You once.
Yep.
So I think it would be nice to have some like ideas for people to like opinionated, setups. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually why I asked, is because the module that we use, because we run all of our GitLab runners on Kubernetes, and the module that we use, I actually publish open source.
Oh, okay.
So, okay.
Yeah, I think it would be awesome to kind of incorporate some pointers to that in the docs or whatever. I think every bit of information there makes it more approachable and kind of give people ideas on how to use it. Because if you just see resources, maybe it's hard to kind of, for a beginner to know what they can do with that, like how powerful it could be and so on. So, yeah.
Got it. And it sounds there's a question in chat as well. Sounds like Marco's maybe having trouble talking, which is perfectly fine. But yeah, managing groups and projects not manually, that's something that we do. We being my company, completely through Terraform as well. So we use the Terraform provider for that, along with assigning permissions not manually as well. So yeah, probably a good, to Timo's point, maybe like an examples folder that has some specific call outs and common use cases. So certainly like a Kubernetes common use case would probably be good. But I have to imagine that groups and permissions, and especially now that the SAML group link is available, I have to imagine that would be a very common use case as well. So yeah, that'd be a really good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and regarding the like bringing already existing resources into Terraform state, I know this is a big issue, right? Because if you want to have everything in Terraform, then it's a lot of manual imports and these kind of things. So at my last job, I actually wrote a little shell script to scrape the GitLab API and try to transform that into Terraform code and also import commands. So I can see if I can kind of polish that a little bit and also add it somewhere there, because I think it's an issue a lot of people have, and it's cumbersome to do this manually.
Okay, looks like no more questions in chat.
All right. Cool. Then yeah, let's call it a day. Thanks for joining, and sorry for the troubles with the link in the meetup event. We'll make sure this doesn't happen anymore for the coming one. I think, like, what is your opinion? Should we have one in a month? I think we had it monthly, but then basically didn't have them because people were not available. But should we continue with that schedule by default and then see how people RSVP in the event, or what do you think?
I like monthly. I worry if we go anything longer than monthly that it'll actually, our attendance issues will actually increase because it won't be kept sort of top of mind for folks. Yeah. So I like monthly still.
Cool.
I think the fact that we still have like a couple minutes left, a few minutes left, also say that we were able like to answer all the questions, and it's like a healthy level also, like as a measure. Yeah, so it sounds good the way this time.
Cool. I'll make sure to set up the invite. I think we can do recurrent invites on meetup.com actually. So yeah, thanks for joining, and it was a pleasure, and I hope to see you next time.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.